Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are cracking open the hood on a really specialized real estate platform.
Mm.
It's called Jamaica Homes, and it focuses, as you guess, entirely on the Jamaican property market.
Right.
And we're not just looking at some glossy listings. Our source material is basically the architectural blueprint of the whole site, and it shows a surprisingly deep approach to how they handle property finance and market data.
That's really the core of it.
Yeah.
Our mission here is to go past the pretty pictures and analyze the structure.
Hmm.
The way a platform like this is built, it's like a map of the market itself.
How so?
Well, when a site builds out a massive suite of financial calculators and these super specific property statuses, it's telling you something. It's telling you just how complex the local market actually is.
So for you, the listener, if you're researching this space, this platform is kind of required reading.
It's the primer, exactly.
And you see the core functions right away. You can buy, rent, or, if you're an agent, create a listing.
Yep.
And it already has scale. The site says join 59.7K other subscribers.
So this isn't some tiny startup. It has real traction.
For sure. And the copyright dates, 2021 to 2025, tell us it's a modern, very active platform.
It's clearly aiming to be that central hub, that source of truth.
Yeah.
And it does that by building tools that solve real problems people face in that market, not just by being a billboard for houses.
Okay, so let's dive into what I think is the most striking feature. I mean, it's the sheer volume of financial support here. We have to talk about this financial toolkit.
I completely agree. The scope here it's just fascinating. Under this general heading, online calculator, we found 11 distinct property calculators.
11.
A lot. They didn't just add a generic mortgage tool and call it a day. They've built an entire army of them, each one tailored for a different scenario you'd actually face.
That is way beyond what you'd normally see. It tells me that in this market, getting your numbers exactly right isn't just a nice to have, it's absolutely critical.
Exactly. So you start with the basics, right? The mortgage calculator and the reparent calculator, foundational stuff.
The essentials?
But then it gets more granular, really fast. We've
Yeah.
got a dedicated down payment calculator.
And that's so important, especially in an international context where requirements can be all over the place.
For sure. And on the cost side, there's a specific closing costs calculator.
Which we know is an area that catches so many people by surprise. Having a tool for that just builds transparency.
It does. And then for planning, you've got the affordability calculator to see what you can even look at, and a home equity calculator.
Ah, now that last one is interesting.
It is, right? It signals that they're thinking about the user not just as a buyer, but as a long-term asset owner who might want to leverage that equity down the line.
So it's about wealth building, not just finding a place to live.
Precisely.
And if we shift from sort of personal finance to the more serious investment side, the toolkit is just as impressive.
This is where they really speak to the sophisticated user. I mean, they have a construction calculator.
A construction calculator.
Yeah. Including a tool for a self-build or a new development project that speaks volumes. It says this market isn't just about existing homes, it's about creating future supply.
And construction costs can be so variable with materials and labor. A tool to model that is a huge advantage.
It's a massive advantage. Then for the landlords, you have the rental yield calculator. That's the whole business plan right there in one tool.
Right. And then the classic rent versus buy calculator, which is pretty standard, but you have to have it.
You do.
And then you get these two transactional tools, which I love. The sale commission calculator and the rent commission calculator.
Yes. Instant transparency.
No guesswork. You know exactly what the agent's cut is going to be.
It builds trust, you know? When you're dealing with that much money, knowing exactly where every percentage point is going is vital.
And what about that outlier you mentioned, the area converter?
Yes. The fact that this simple measurement tool is right there with all the heavy financial machinery tells you something very subtle.
What's that?
It tells you that dealing with different units of land measurement, acres, square meters, whatever, is considered a fundamental first step. It's a hurdle you have to clear before you can even start the financial calculations.
Huh. You have to measure correctly before you can finance correctly.
That's it, precisely. And that level of detail leads us perfectly into the next bit, which is how they classify the properties themselves.
Let's get into that. The actual market pipeline. The site uses this extensive vocabulary for property status. It goes way beyond just for sale.
It does. And for you, the learner, understanding these terms is the key to figuring out how fast a deal is moving or how much risk is involved.
The number of terms for properties that are already in negotiation is revealing.
It reveals a market with a very structured, maybe even a long closing process. So you start with the obvious ones. For rent, for sale, and the one everyone loves to see, new construction.
But the real nuance comes when a property goes into play.
Exactly. You see, let agreed for rentals, and for sales you start with under offer, which means, talks are happening.
The offer is on the table.
Right. But then you get into the more serious stages of commitment. The platform lists both under contract and pending.
And in a lot of markets, people use those interchangeably.
They do, but having both here suggests they signify different legal stages. Maybe one is when the initial agreement is signed, and the other is when financing is being finalized.
And then there's this really specific one, sale agreed, sold, STC.
Yes.
STC, subject to contract. What does that distinction tell us?
It's a critical term, especially in legal systems that come from British property law. It means a price has been agreed on, but the final legally binding contract is not signed yet.
So the deal could still fall through?
Potentially, yes. It's a less certain stage than, say, under contract, which implies that legal commitment has been made. The fact that the platform needs all these distinct terms shows you the closing process is broken into very clear phases of risk.
It's a masterclass in market transparency. And then you've got withdrawn for a property that's off the market for now.
And that transparency just keeps going when you look at how they categorize properties. It's not just house or apartment.
No, it's not. Let's start with commercial, because this really shows they're catering to serious business investors.
Absolutely. You go beyond just office or shop. They
Wow.
specifically list restaurant and hotel as separate categories.
Which tells you hospitality is a mature investment class there.
For sure. And then you get into logistics, industrial property, warehouse. And for developers, the land categories are crystal clear. You've got land, mixed-use property, and this very specific one, vacant lot, commercial development.
So it's not just any empty lot.
No, it's land specifically targeted for a big commercial project. But the most insightful one for me is student accommodation.
Listed under commercial.
Explicitly. That signals a dedicated investment play. It's a recognized opportunity for investors looking at purpose-built rentals near universities.
That's really specific.
Yeah.
And then shifting over to residential, the categories tell a similar story about the different lifestyles and investment types.
You've got your standards, of course. Apartment, condo, single-family house, townhouse, studio, villa.
Loft.
Right. But then you see the more specialized types that paint a richer picture. Things like bungalow or duplex triplex.
Which are perfect for multi-generational families or rental income.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or farmhouse acreage for people looking to get out of the city. They even include mobile home, which shows they're tracking the affordability end of the market.
Alongside multifamily house, again, for the investors. And of course, the high end is there with penthouse.
And they also recognize these structured communities. They list retirement community.
That's a huge demographic.
It is. And again, they're careful to distinguish land, residential, from the commercial land we just talked about.
So they're just as serious about someone building their dream home as they are about a developer building a shopping center.
You got it. And finally, vacation home. It recognizes the huge role of tourism and the second home market. It's a remarkably complete taxonomy of housing.
So we've looked at the mechanics, the calculators, the classifications. Let's talk about the content layer, how the platform tries to connect all this to, culture and policy.
Right. This is the part that builds trust, especially if you're targeting people living abroad, the diaspora. They have this magazine called NYM.
And the resource topics they pick are so telling. They have a whole section on returning resident resources.
It immediately tells you they're focused on helping people move back who have their own unique set of challenges.
And the other themes, they're not just about money. They cover architecture, investment, but also heritage.
Yeah, connecting property decisions today to the island's cultural past.
It's all reinforced by their main tagline, isn't it? Our story, our island, our future.
Exactly. That's not a sales pitch. That's positioning homeownership as like a piece of national identity and future growth. It's a powerful emotional hook.
It really is. Okay, just briefly, let's touch on a couple of other functional tools. Users can compare listings, which is obviously super useful.
Standard, but essential. And it's just worth noting this little detail we found in the source material about accounts.
What's that?
It mentions that user registration is disabled for demo purpose. It's a small thing, but it's a flag that the full registration process probably has some important steps that aren't public.
Good to know. So after digging through this entire architecture, what's the big takeaway for you, the listener? Why should all this complexity matter?
The key takeaway is that this platform, Jamaica Homes, it's not just a listing portal. It's an education tool. It doesn't just show you what's for sale. It gives you this whole ecosystem of specialized tools you need to seriously engage with that market. The fact that they have 11 calculators and all those property statuses, it implies that to succeed there, you need to do your homework.
The platform is built for the person who is willing to do that homework.
Exactly. The sophisticated investor or the really dedicated home buyer who is ready to engage with all that local complexity.
It definitely paints a picture of a nuanced, high-stakes environment.
Yeah.
And that brings us to our final thought for you to take away.
Mhm.
We spent a lot of time on that long list of status terms: let agreed, under contract, pending, sold, STC. I want you to think about what it means to operate in a market where you need that many precise stages between an offer and a final title. What does that tell you about how quickly deals get done?
Right.
It suggests the process is cautious, it's full of checks and balances, and it probably takes a while. That gap, that measured pace between saying, I'll buy it, and actually getting the keys, that's a kind of risk you have to calculate into your plan whenever you're navigating any international property market.
That is an excellent point to end on. The pipeline risk is just as important as the interest rate.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.